Welcome back to this episode of The Journey with Jesus Around the World. Today we're taking you way back to London. I don't know if you saw the Bond movies or anything like that, but that's where all those things take place. And today we want to explore a little bit of this beautiful town and see what's God up to in London town. Our team was able to do a couple different things. The clip that we're going to show you is, to just set it up for you, is a kind of maybe red light district. It's a part of London called Soho, like we have in New York City, but this one is a little bit of a dodgy kind of town, if you will, maybe in the London terms. It's a town where things are maybe a little bit more clubby. There's some gentlemen's clubs, there's some random things. And the person that we saw there is not someone who's partaking of the lifestyle. It's someone that's completely random that you would not expect to see at all. So maybe you tell me if you're as surprised as I am when you see this guy in a club area. Check it out.
We believe that beyond universe is more like spiritual way. We try to contact this higher. But yoga means connection to the higher. We do meditation and we use mantra. Mantra is like spiritual sound. And mantra can help in that way that you break through this material energy to the spiritual energy in that way. Because we try also to see the people equal. Doesn't matter black, white, or any religion or nation or anything, because we are all spirit. A spirit is beyond external appearance.
How would you describe Jesus? Like, some people see him as a very humble man, who came to serve others. He would always try to show love to everyone, showed love to not just Jews. Sometimes he went out of that. How would you describe him if you were to describe him?
Okay, I have a great respect for Jesus. He's the perfect person, of course. We should follow his example. How he treats people equally, doesn't matter. He never distinguished between people in that way. He was giving spiritual knowledge. But we should see in his example is perfect. Like how they call Maria Magdalena. She was prostitute out of society, but he still preached to her and helped her, and she becomes saint in that way. Therefore, we are all good in Jesus' eyes. We are all good, but we may be covered temporarily in that way. Same things we should see. This is called equal vision with people. But people should follow his example, of course. This is much more important. Of course, sometimes people said, oh, you should have faith. Okay, faith in Jesus is okay, but also is important example. But I was born Roman Catholic. I know all. I read Bible and all this. It's perfect example, but we should see this is universal. Sometimes religion try to cover putting in boundaries. Jesus cannot be put in any boundaries. He's beyond.
Have you ever heard about, in Christianity, why Jesus actually came, and besides the fact of him being a good example, which you said, which is true, besides of him giving great teaching and spiritual knowledge, which is true, but the last bit about why he actually died, do you know why he died, or do you know more so, have you heard or thought about his identity as more than a great teacher, but as God in the flesh? Right, yeah. Have you thought about that before?
Okay, of course. I was born in Roman Catholic Christianity, I know, but God, he sent his son, of course, his very dear son to help us. This means God is very lovable. He wants to help us. We are in this fallen condition. We are like son who is gone out from the Father. And little we make problems, but we have to again come back to the Father. Of course, the church says that Jesus is this connection link to the Father, that we again come to the God again, because we are little now leaving God, of course. We are all forgetting God in this world. Of course, we respect in that way Jesus, okay. We need this connection to God again, and then But how to say, connection to God, you have to develop that love again. And we love now this world. This means we love cars, we love our jobs, our nation, our things. But instead of loving here, we can love God. This is in that way. Yeah, in that way, it's simple. But we are too much connected to this world. Therefore, we came here just to enjoy separately from God. Like this, but we should come again to be together with Him. Because we are very small, how we can enjoy separately in that way.
So do you feel like you're becoming closer to God through Jesus?
Of course, if you follow Him, why not? He's perfect example, and of course. But this connection is important for all of us. Just pray, of course, and then God is in your heart. He is listening, of course. He is just waiting for you. But we somehow always turn to other place, other side. What God can do. He respects this independence. Therefore, He cannot force us to love Him, and love is voluntary in that way.
Jesus said, "I am the only way to God." What do you think about that?
Yeah. But okay, our understanding, this means His example and His teachings. This is the way. This means this is universal. Sometimes, of course, sometimes people think that this is more than this. But as much I understand, and this means His example and His teachings. If you follow this, He gives the way through this. Otherwise, if you not do anything about spiritual, this means He said, think always about God, never forget Him in that way. Or of course help your neighbor, because we are all brothers and sisters. There is God, but we are also here, other living beings. And God is not satisfied if you're hurting others, and you says, I love God as well.
So as you saw there, not your average goer. Maybe the outfit, maybe the flower on the head. But the cool thing there is that this guy was really willing. And maybe one of the things that we can take from this so what moment that we have every episode is maybe be prepared for unusual things and unusual circumstances. What God showed us with this man is how close he was to following Christ. How much he could even get to the point of saying, He's God. Yeah, okay, maybe. But there's something there that was holding him back ideologically. He's been through so much. He was telling us both on camera and off camera how he's been through war, how he's been through all these things that made him lose faith in humanity. But still he was trying to hold on to God. And still he was there even as a preacher of some kind. Even though we weren't sure what he was preaching. Maybe meditation, Hare Krishna, Hinduism, something. But there was something about him that was searching, that was yearning for God, even in a place of brokenness. Him and another pair of people that you won't see a clip of just because we didn't capture them on camera, but I'll tell you about them in a quick second because it's something that we can take away from that conversation. Two young girls from Italy, actually, happened to be in London. Jennifer and Michelle. When we speak to them randomly with our usual kind of survey approach and say, hey, we're taking a little survey here in town, what do you think about whatever? And we start asking them some basic questions. How would you describe God and whatever? In the beginning, things sounded pretty standard, pretty slim. They're sitting there just hanging out, having a beer on the corner, and we're engaging them in conversation. But then something kind of throws everything off with the second girl, Michelle. We say, hey, how would you describe Jesus? You figure, worst case scenario, she'll have something bad to say about Jesus. Maybe she'll have something really bad to say about Jesus. But she just starts crying. And we're like, what? Something I said, I'm sorry, why are you crying? She just said, I can't, I'm not able to talk anymore. Just please stop. And it was clear that in her life, the same way that in the life of our other gentleman that you saw the clip of, in his life there was significant pain and trauma from war and things like that. In her life, there must have been something going on, that at the name of Jesus, she started crying. There was some kind of pain, some kind of hurt, some kind of something. Thankfully, we were able to continue with her friend, and her friend didn't have that kind of barrier. So in a way, we were actually speaking with her through her friend and asking her friend more follow-up questions. What do you think about him? How do you describe his character? What was your experience like in church? And like so many Christians, for the first girl, her experience was not a good one. She didn't have much to say about who God was, even having been someone who grew up in the church in a very religious country in Italy. We're able to share with her and with her friend there, right on that street corner in Soho, who Christ is, what salvation is. And surprisingly, we asked her, like, have you heard this before? Is this like new information? Are we boring you? She just looked at us and said, I never heard this before. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what do you mean? You've been here for your whole life. It's not like you live in the bush. You don't live in the Amazon jungle. So no, I had never heard of it before. And it was similar to the other gentleman that you saw in the clip, in that even though he's been around Jesus a lot, one of the scary phrases that Jesus says in the Gospels is that he says to a young man, he says, you know, you are not far from the kingdom of heaven. And I don't know how you interpret that, but if you are not far from the kingdom of heaven, you are not in the kingdom of heaven. I don't want to be close to the kingdom. I want to be in there. For this lady, for that guy, they were close. They were around there. They saw something, but they weren't inside. And maybe for you and me, there are people around us that are not so super duper lost. They're not doing crack and they're not, you know what I mean, red light district and all that kind of stuff. But maybe they're close to the kingdom and they just need a little budge. In some recent studies in America, they said that some large statistic, some large number, 50, 60% of people would actually go to church if they were invited by their friend. If they were just brought arm in arm into a friend, hey, this is my friend Peter, Jamie, Steve, whatever. So maybe you and I can start thinking about that as well, of people that are not far from the kingdom and how they can be there with a little nudge, a little push. Nothing major, no crisis, no Africa trip, just something small. What we saw in the London servants who were with us in that time as well is how much they were impacted by that as well. Both from experience like that or an experience in the Times Square of London, which is a place called Embankment, where we spoke with people from Spain, or another place called Trafalgar Square. I always forget the name of that place, but multiple places in the heart of London where we spoke with people who, again, didn't need a lot. They just needed someone to speak with. One young lady, one of our servants from Scotland, was speaking with her, and all she said to her was, do you know that God has a plan for your life? I mean, I've heard that before. You probably have. But something resonated with her in her life is that she was really hoping and praying that somebody is planning things, somebody is looking out for her, that she just looked into that servant's eyes and started to weep as well. Said, I hope that's true. You really think that God has a plan for me? You really think that God loves me? Started telling her how he does love her, how he does have a plan. And that made a big difference to that girl right there. For us, it sounded like an ordinary story, and maybe that's kind of the theme of tonight, of this episode. It's not fireworks all the time. Sometimes it's ordinary things. But a lot of times those ordinary things can really become extraordinary when Christ is in them. These people that are not far can become in the kingdom in a non-extraordinary way. That's good news maybe for some of us, is that we don't have a lot of extraordinary methods. We don't have a lot of extraordinary means. We just have an extraordinary God. And the good thing about the extraordinary God, using extraordinary ways, he does extraordinary stuff. So I just want to encourage you with that as well. Until the next time that I see you on the episode of Around the World.